we are so happy to have you joining us. My name is Stacy Schrader, the lead product marketing manager here at ShareFile. I am joined here today with a longtime ShareFile customer and the oh so popular and talented Nayo Carter-Gray.
Hello, everyone. So I am Nayo Carter-Gray, owner founder First Step Accounting, where we make accounting a little less taxing. It's trademarked, don't use it. Um, and we work with what I call my hustlepreneurs. They're typically going from full-time employment to full-time entrepreneurship, and so we help them along that journey. My firm does offer accounting, tax prep, bookkeeping, education, consulting services, and I've been virtual for over 10 years. ShareFile was one of my very first apps in my app stack. Like Stacey said, I am a long-term user, long-term lover of the product. My word of the year is fortitude. One of my friends sent me one of those like Instagram reels where you kind of freeze and screenshot. And that was the word that came up. And I was like, I love it. It kind of is defining where we are as a firm right now, where I am kind of solidifying all the things that I did as a solo owner to now having a team and making sure all the processes are kind of ironed and buttoned up in writing and have video assets and removing myself from the day to day and just making sure I'm setting my team up for success.
Today's webinar will be going over these three areas that'll really help your firms maximize their productivity. We'll talk about minimizing admin work first, and then move into more about how to simplify client touchpoints and interactions. And then lastly, how to handle more engagements. So bringing on more workload, but keeping your resources around the same as well. But the beauty of the three is that they all sort of overlap each other, meaning changes that you make in each place will sort of have an impact all over your business. And I know, Nayo, you have this very true in your own personal experiences and journey. Can you share more about how you approach these three so far?
Oh, yes. So admin work is the bane of our existence, right? It's the things that we have to do in order to better serve our customers. So I am a big fan of like trying to productize all the things and streamline them. So templates, checklists, basically using the same general template for all the services we offer for all the clients that we serve.
Mhm.
This also helps when you kind of know who you're talking to and working with and trying to really stick to not going outside of that, which then helps us kind of set up regularly scheduled touch points that can be automated in terms of communication because we can templatize those emails and make sure they're going out on a frequent basis or on that cadence that we have previously set up. And when we streamline all this admin work, and those touch points, it basically means we can now serve more clients because we kind of have this system down pat. And it really kind of lends to just being able to increase your revenues, bring on more clients like the ones you are loving to serve, and then growing your team to help you continue this process over and over and over again.
Well, that's great. And I know you have some really great suggestions and stories along the way. But before we cover each area, I did want to briefly give you all an overview of ShareFile. If you haven't used or heard of us, we'll be referencing it a little bit along the way. So we are a 20-year-old company this year, actually, that was founded originally to solve an accounting firm's problem back in 2005. Since then, we've been rapidly expanding, serving customers across every industry to really help solve pain points around document collaboration and workflows. So not only do we provide a lot of easy internal collaboration capabilities, but we also serve that external process as well. So what makes ShareFile so special that we have customers coming to us raving about is really just the ability to easily collaborate securely, not only with the colleagues, but with your external parties as well, such as your clients. So we have nearly 2 million active client users inside of our product every day that really rely on ShareFile to work seamlessly with their service provider, since we serve so many service-based industries. We are also a trusted provider by AICPA. We are SOC certified under AICPA and a newly member discount partner, part of their program as well. Really trying to be part of that community and serve you all the best we can, since we are very, very appreciative of your business. So we're going to move into sort of our first pillar. And I think when you're thinking about minimizing admin work, I think we're all guilty of still working, still doing work that could be easily taken off of our plate. So no matter how productive and efficient your workflows may be, it can be still a bog down in your process without you knowing it. Maybe you know there's a problem, maybe you don't. But it's really important to focus this on for service-based industries, specifically, of course, accounting that we're talking about today. So it's really crucial to give more time to focus on building relationships with your clients and more time to that high value work, such as advisory work, that really makes that impact to your business growth and your client satisfaction overall, too. So a recent survey actually found that 90% of accountants want to shift from compliance related services to more advisory, but they still really, really struggle doing this due to those low value work, those admin tasks. It's really essential to getting those services done, but not adding value to their services along the way. So I'm curious, Nayo, your thoughts on this. Why is focusing more on advisory work really crucial for firms and leaving more time to do that?
Well, the advisory work, I think, is what I like to call the empathetic work. It is really where we connect with our clients, and we all know that our clients prefer to spend money with people they know, like, and
Mm-hmm.
trust. And the only way to really kind of establish that relationship and understand what's important to them is through this advisory lens. I think a lot of us can go into some software and either create a bookkeeping financial statement package or prepare a tax return. But really, we can't do that without really understanding what's important to the client and help to create that long lasting bond that retains that client for years to come. It's how they get to understand what we really offer is not just punching numbers into a software, but it's really us being able to take what's happened over the past month or year or week and explain to them where they are, where they could possibly go, and help put their fears at ease. Especially for like the clients we serve, they're typically starting a business full time. And so there's lots of ways that we can assist them and let them know, hey, things are going to be okay. This brand new business, our goal is to help you kind of push through the trouble spots and the mental challenges of, oh, I got a tax bill, I don't want to pay the government anything, but then really helping them understand along that journey that we are here to support you so that you can grow doing the thing that you love to do for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way we can get there is really getting some of this admin work and not prioritizing it, but getting to who the human is behind the work that we're doing. Once we're connected, the client tends to lock in. Um, and we've all heard that AI is coming, it's here. So we should be utilizing it in order to do some of this admin work so that we can then use the brain work and the emotional work and connect with our clients in a much more meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that, what you're talking about, is the special sauce for a lot of firms, and that's what will keep your client retention rate really, really great. Is really adding that value into those client relationships, just in a very commoditized industry. So focusing on that will really help get you there as a client experience and satisfaction standpoint too.
Yeah.
But we know it's not easy and it's not quick. But setting up procedures to get you there little by little help you move more in that direction every day. I think when you're seeing on the screen right here, some like 3 tips on helping you to reduce some of that admin work. Some of these may be a little obvious, but I think taking a step back and maybe you did this a couple years ago, redoing these steps and looking at your business this way can be really impactful. So if you don't already have one, making a streamlined onboarding process for your clients that quickly gathers that client information, maybe sets expectations for them, those timelines, so they know exactly what to expect. This is really big and a huge admin task overall that can be a job in itself and sometimes usually is, that really help you set up that expectation from the very start. And then look at ways to automate some of your repetitive workflows and not just for your accountants, for every role at your firm. Those are the ones that will always be easy to like offload to technology or even admin staff, since they're usually repeatable, usually identical to each process again and again. And to maximize your productivity, the time on those workflows should not be spent on billable hour employees. Trying to offload those to technology or admin tasks is going to be something where it will leave more space for that advisory work if that's what you're focusing on. And then most people will say you need to have every tech tool under the sun for your business. But that usually, and after all, like Nayo's nodding, will add more complexity than ease inside of your firm. So strategically think through what really bogs down your processes, and sort of implement technology that really fits your personal firm's process, not what other organizations are doing. Just because the differences between each organization will always be present, whether that's your client base or maybe your staff works a little bit differently, or you have certain skills that another organization doesn't have. So that's why it's important to really strategically think through what that looks like. And I know, Anayo, you've personally done a lot of work on your firm's efficiency and really putting a lot of automation in place. But I think it can be sort of daunting for some firms, especially if you're getting started on that digital transformation. But what are some ways you've implemented these three tips and how'd you get started with that?
So really, I remember being just a solo firm owner and I was at capacity. I was working myself like a dog and I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. But I didn't have the money to hire anybody. So I had to figure out a way to kind of free up my time. And so one of the things that I am a big advocate for is looking at the services that you offer and taking one of them. And I like to start with the one that you're making the most money at, right?
Right.
Because this is where you'll see the biggest impact. And actually writing out every step in the process from how the client finds you to how delivery and the service ends. And what you'll discover throughout that process is ways in which you can automate, delegate, or eliminate altogether. So those are my I love automate, eliminate, delegate. In doing that process, the first time as a solo firm owner, I did it for the tax prep process. And for me, what I discovered is that I can create a organizer that I used for every client in an online based form, that I didn't have to personalize or streamline for every client. I could create email templates. I eliminated me answering the phone and scheduling appointments. So,
Mm.
that I found a service that can answer my phone calls. $40 a month saved me hours. And I don't say that lightly. It really did. I started tracking my time and I was spending probably at least 2 hours a week answering the phone and scheduling appointments. So just getting those 2 hours back allowed me to bring on a couple more clients and then be able to hire my first admin associate. So I always recommend mapping out the process, then testing it from a client's perspective so that you will understand exactly what it is that they're getting, what they'll see, if there are any challenges along the way. You can create resources along the lines of you testing it so that you can say, here's our new process, here's a video on how it goes, here's what you can expect, here's the email to look out for. So it makes it easy for them to adjust. And then this process is not a set it and forget it thing. As your business changes and morphs, you do need to review it and make sure it's still in alignment with how you're working today. So I see a
Mhm.
lot of people like to throw software at the problem, but typically you'll get frustrated with the software if it's not fitting your process. And the inverse of that is that software improves all the time. So sometimes you need to check and see if there are new features that will be beneficial to the process that you have in place now.
Yeah, and I think a key call out of what you mentioned is technology is not always going to be the solution. I mean, there's some simple things that you can put in place, like you did with your own firm, that can solve a lot of the efficiency problems you may be having at your firm. So it's really, really important to look at that in a wide range instead of looking for a solution first and still identifying what's going on in your own organization. But some key takeaways, which Nayo just spilled all this wisdom on us that you can sort of take away with you, is first to start with a process. You can't really improve anything until you know exactly what you want to do. So like I said, like starting with a tool is not going to solve your problem. You have to know exactly what you want to solve before you go look for a tool. And start little by little. So Nayo sort of touched on this too, is starting with the first problem, sort of taking note how much time maybe you're spending answering the phone, and then that can lead into sort of what you want to solve in the future as well. And then tests from your client's perspective. This is really important, especially working in a service-based industry, putting yourself into your own client's shoes, test it, test it, test it. Identify any challenges that you may have gone through during that process, and you can fix it before it even gets released to your clients, to solve any pain points along the way. And we know change management is never fun, so you want to make it as good as possible that first round, and then review processes annually. So this is a really great tip from Nayo. Changes happen all the time, whether that's from your workforce, technology changes, your client base may be getting younger, things that are always going to be changing annually and sometimes monthly nowadays, it seems. So make sure you're testing annually to really ensure it's still working for your firm and your clients. So if you're unfamiliar with ShareFile, we really focus on providing tools in one place to really build up efficiency. So a couple ways we do this is first with integrated e-signature. So our e-signature inside of ShareFile is 100% natively built, meaning you don't really need to go out and buy a separate product or integrate a separate e-signature tool inside of ShareFile. It can really amplify your time with document templates that autofill in key data into agreements like client data, like emails, first and last name, address, where you don't have to manually put in that every single time. So all you have to do is really click and send that agreement to that client. And then another advantage is our knowledge-based authentication inside of ShareFile that's included for no extra charge on top of our e-signature service. And then we also offer accelerated client onboarding. So what you're seeing right now is sort of that process inside of our product. It will automate sort of the client interaction by auto sending an engagement letter with them to sign that auto fills that information like I talked about earlier. And then it will auto send them information for their client portal setup once they sign that letter automatically. So you don't have to go back in to remember, oh, they signed, I need to send them the next step in this journey. It'll really fast track that engagement from the very beginning. And those are just a couple of ways that ShareFile does it. And I know a lot of other tools can interact in that same way. Moving on to our second pillar of what we're going to be talking about today, and that's really simplifying client touchpoints. In our survey, I think it was the number one thing, if I remember correctly, other than all three. But it's probably one of the biggest opportunities to really streamline efficiency inside of your firm, which could be simplifying your overall client interaction. So you may be spending a lot of time interacting with those clients that aren't necessarily high value to your business or really to your relationships with them either. For example, if you're replying to emails about what document to submit or following up to remind them to submit that document. So all of those sort of go into what really does your interactions look like with your clients. A recent survey found that 50% of accountants spend 1 to 2 full days communicating with clients just about gathering information, not about that high value work that Nayo was touching on earlier, while another 50% took up to 2 weeks. And this is insane. This is a survey that was taken last year, which really can take a hit to your productivity overall, and your client's experience too, because they feel like they have to be bothering you to ask questions all the time or looking for resources. But I really think it never really seems that like much time that you're spending on communicating with those clients. I think Nayo, when you said you were auditing your day to day, you didn't realize you were spending like that much time answering phone calls from your clients just about where to find things. So as you head into busy season, I really do recommend you take these tips and especially when you're communicating with clients and these touch points, make it a little more streamlined. First being training your clients on how to work with you. I think we all think about training staff and how to work in their processes in your firm, but we never really think about how to train your clients and to interact with you too. So this can really reduce ambiguity and really prevent a lot of that unnecessary communication when they know to expect in the very beginning. The second would be trying to eliminate that client chase. I know I'm guilty of this with my accountant, but setting up automated reminders and notifications to keep that work flowing back and forth. You don't need to be manually reminding them to submit their documents again and again. There's tools to help you with that are really going to be more efficient at doing that than you bugging them via email or text or calling them to do that. So if you don't have something set up, that's going to be something really beneficial. And then focus on unification and ease of use. That's really important. Most clients, like me, are like a dog with a squirrel. So if you don't provide a single place for updates and document exchange to speed up that time to service, I'm not going to know where to go exactly. And then I'm going to get nervous and just send everything over via email or call you, not knowing, because maybe you're using 5 tools and you're sending your clients to 5 tools now. It's too complex and it's too much to remember. Like, it's easy for the staff to understand where to go, but not all the time for your clients. So it's something to take in perspective, and audit while you're working through this busy season. Now, what would you recommend to other accountants that are looking to reduce some of that unnecessary back and forth communication?
Being proactive. I am guilty of this myself, but really, when you are proactive with communication, it kind of cuts down the anxiety with the clients, especially because we know there's a deadline and the clients sometimes like to wait till the last minute. And so their emergency sometimes tries to turn into your emergency, but I challenge you to not let it. So, what we tend to do is in advance of the season kind of kicking off, we let clients know what that process is so that they can understand, okay, this is what we can expect. Here are the 5 stages I have to go through, and here's a timeline generally of how this is going to work. And so we tell our clients, your tax return is going to take 3 weeks. So if you're looking for it at week one, we told you in advance it's going to take 3 weeks. So if you need it at week one, we're not the firm for you, and be okay saying no. We're not the firm for you. But once you start being proactive, a couple of things you can do is I keep mentioning templates. We have email templates set up for every stage of communication during tax season, whether that is we have received your documents, we will get back to you within 48 business hours with an update, or we need some additional information and we have like a templated list of typically the additional information we need. We have a template that kind of kicks off the tax year that says, hey, this is this year's tax season in a nutshell. Here are all the important dates you need to outline and put on your calendar. We even send them the link to the IRS's calendar so they can subscribe to it and have those dates on their calendar. So those kind of things kind of cut down on the clients like, where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Because they know when to expect it. They know when we've received the information and are getting started, because we have an email that says we've received your email, I mean your information, and we're getting started on your tax return. So they can expect to hear from us within 3 business days. So like, okay, great, she's getting started on my stuff. I'm going to hear something from her in 3 days. Now, if I don't follow up in 3 days, then the client has every right to be like,
Yeah.
but we try to stick to our policies. And again, it's just really setting up those templates, setting up those schedules, and using your project management system to keep track of all the things.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example of how to train your clients so they know what to expect. But what change have you made at First Step Accounting that really has had the biggest impact on your clients' experience overall?
Oh, last year we implemented a welcome guide, and it's just a one-page like website kind of deal. And it was a video of me just saying, "Hey, this is this year's tax season," and then sections that outlined our process. It had links to all of the technology we were using, so links to ShareFile to upload documents, an organizer that they needed to fill out. It told them what the deposit was going to be, and then there were links to like the IRS's website in order to make a payment. And then there were resources. So those resources included, if I owe money, what do I need to do, right? Then it tells them how to set up a payment plan if they wanted to do so. It also outlined how they could download a copy of their tax return. We like to send our clients resources all the time because, our clients will do stuff. So even one of those resources is how to take a picture of your tax documents using your cell phone. And it sounds crazy, but just reminding them to wipe the camera off made a huge difference in the images that we received of tax documents last year. But that welcome guide really just kind of set the timeline, and it really set the stage for them because that was a thing that they could continue to go to if they have questions. They knew, oh, let me go on here because that question was on the bottom of the sheet with a link and a resource. And then we didn't get as many emails last year on taxes.
That's amazing, especially when you're measuring it and sort of looking at the impact it caused. So some takeaways from all of that wisdom she just spilled on all of us again. Be proactive, tell them what to expect, when to expect it, and how to expect it. That welcome guide that she sort of put in place is a great resource and example of doing that. Really eliminating their ambiguity overall, put yourself in their shoes. That's going to be crucial to really understand where you would want guidance during this service. That's going to help you empathize with them. Templatize everything. She's mentioned this a couple of times, so I had to put it down as a key takeaway. For internal and client-facing use, forms, agreements, requests, tasks, anything you can think of that is repeatable and usually is used by multiple people across your organization, even emails, like she said, and communications. That'll help you save ample amount of time. 3 minutes here, that adds up all week. And then lastly, predict and implement. Take notice of what gets asked or requested most often. You can build that into your resources or into a client guide like she has. Anything where you can preempt anything that will be maybe challenging for your clients along the way. That'll really be a resource from not only one client, but your entire client base. ShareFile really simplifies client touchpoints. So one of that best aspect of ShareFile is that it's really committed to a streamlined client experience that makes it really easy for the client, but also the accountant that's working with said client. So we do this in sort of very different ways, but two being the biggest components, which is first our user-friendly client portal that really unifies all shared documents, requests, tasks, reminders into one secure place. So you're not sending them to 5 different tools at one time, and they know exactly where to go. And the client can be fully engaged and communicate with their accountant with an easy tool to navigate. And then also keeping the entire engagement moving on time and securely, which is really important. I know we didn't touch on security much, but that being a big component, not only for your obligations, but also the client's financial information that's being shared. But then also our document list collection tool, document requests is what we call it. This really simplifies, templatizes, and organizes that PPC list collection that's really needed to kick off almost every service at your organization, whether that include like tax or audit engagements. But that can be some of the biggest pain points is just collecting those documents. So making that easy from both a staff standpoint, making it repeatable and easy to send, but also collecting it from the client. They know it's expected, they know the due date. If they have questions, they can comment right directly on it. And that's what you're seeing right here is sort of the combination of both of these together. This is our client portal. And then you can see all the open tasks that they have listed here, whether that's an information request, they need to fill that out every single service happens, or maybe they have already sent the PBC list and you can see them uploading those documents there too, and where they can ask questions very easily. But I think we are all trying really, really hard to do more with less. Time and resources are always going to be a constraint in daily life, but especially in an accounting firm, very service based. But we're all still looking for ways to handle more engagements and grow your business with the same or less resources at hand. A survey from AICPA actually saw that roughly 70% of firms are increasing their tech investment for the next year to really bridge that gap between we know you have to be efficient and our goals around it, but we don't have that money to hire more staff or headcount. And right now, of course, with the industry and profession challenge with the shortage makes that even harder, even if you do have that budget. So obviously there isn't much that a firm can do about profession challenges. But how has technology eased those challenges for you, Nayo? And where are you still looking to expand your digital transformation?
Oh man, I am a self-proclaimed appaholic. I love all of the technology, but I also know that technology can bog you down sometimes. So I know I mentioned when I was a solopreneur what I did to kind of implement and start freeing up some of my time. But now with team members, we're continuing to look at the technology that we're using to make sure that it is the best fit. So I mentioned that I test our processes at least once a year to make sure they're still working.
Hmm.
And we've made we've made lots of changes this year. So hopefully we can see some improvement in how we're serving our clients in terms of, getting things out the door sooner rather than later. And then that whole document request process, sometimes analog can be a little bit better. We've shifted some of those resources to the admin so that my team can focus on the brain work and she can focus on the paperwork. When it comes to technology, I like to look for one apps that are mobile friendly. Because I know our client base is getting younger and a lot of them are mobile first. So, one of the things when I originally signed up for ShareFile that drew me to the platform was that they had a mobile app. And so, in the resources that we provide, we show them how to upload documents from a cell phone.
Hmm.
And I know I see some questions about other clients. How do they know they uploaded it? My clients, we teach them that they're going to get an email that says, "You've uploaded these documents." And we've kind of set it up that way. In terms of the technology in order to kind of streamline our processes, we also use a shared email inbox. And for us, email is probably the biggest time suck. So we tend to divide our emails in the shared inbox into a few different buckets so that way they are a little easier to manage. And we put the templated emails in that email program. And we're using a program called Missive. I know I'm going to get the question, but Missive allows you to kind of share a
Hmm.
shared inbox with other people on your team. They can either, you can set them up a bit as observers where they can only see the email or they can also respond. So what this does is kind of share the workload. We're using the technology to share the workload across the team, but then they also have access to the templates that have been set up so that they don't have to recreate the wheel, right? So if
Right.
one of my employees, let's say, responds to a very complicated matter about how to file payroll tax returns in the state of California, we can take that email, turn it into a template, and then the entire team gets to benefit from it. So I like to look at the technology that one allows us to share resources, but two, that's also going to cut down time for us later on down the line. And I know people are like, there's so many apps out there. How do you choose the
Hmm.
ones? What I like to look at again, but going back to that process, once you understand what it is you're looking for that app to be able to do, then you can find apps that do that thing. So it helps me kind of cut down when I'm looking for an app to do a certain thing. And I can go through the feature set. Does this do this, this, this? No, it's off the list.
Yeah.
And it kind of saves you from having to sign up for 15, 14-day trials to make sure the thing works the way that you want it to.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of helpful nuggets in there that really lend into these three tips on this page as well. The first being audit, like you said, your staff's, no pun intended, your staff's day to day to really understand what processes bog down your productivity. And I think that's helpful for when you're picking your technology too, going into knowing exactly what you need. You'll also really need to identify trends and client needs and requests to proactively set those protocols in place for your clients. And maybe you weren't, for example, aware that 90% of your clients always send an email to ask where they can find their finalized return from last year. Things like that can be a perfect place to reduce those noises and speed up that productivity.
If you're
Absolutely.
kind of just getting started with automation, people are like, how do I, delegate and automate at the same time? What I recommend is like using one of your screen recorders and record you doing the thing that you're trying to do and kind of talk out loud about as you're doing it. So this way you have a digital copy of the process that that you already have. You can take that video, you can run it through a transcription service, get the transcription, create a SOP from it, and then work with someone to help you automate or streamline it in some kind of way. Because you'll now have a written version of your process, and you can say, "Oh, I'm spending lots of time doing this thing. Is there something out there that can help me automate this piece?"
Yeah, that's perfect because the last point right there is document and standardize. So doing things like that with your tools, your templates, your automations, really helping to reduce that prep time it is to get started and throughout the engagement with your clients too. So this can be, as you stated, overwhelming, Nio, for a lot of firms, especially when you're trying to do all of these at once. Where's a good place for them to start taking those steps forward to improve how they're servicing clients with this in mind?
I always say start with your clients.
Mhm,
I know some of us are afraid to get that feedback, but really, I think our clients want us to succeed. And so when we ask them, hey, how are we doing? We're trying to get better here. We think we're on the right path, but we might not be. So we would love your feedback. And some of them will be brutally honest with you, and you will learn so much about whether it's your team members or your process or an app that you're using with your clients, because they will let you know whether they like something or don't like it, and they will. Sometimes you'll discover like, oh, this thing is working really well. Maybe we should lean more into it, or they'll say, I would have loved to heard from you at this particular point, and you can say, okay, we need to add a touch point in here. So for example, we did this survey and with our bookkeeping clients, and we discovered that the bookkeeping bank feeds get broken all the time, and our clients were confused on how to reset it up, and then we were like, well, we technically never showed them how to do it. So
mhm,
we created a kind of like a touch point at the very beginning of the engagement. We call it a implementation meeting where we walk them through connecting their bank accounts. And we record this so that in case they break, they now have a version of how to reconnect. Or if they get a new bank account, they can just reconnect it. But that was a touch point that we discovered saved us so much time in the end, or during the engagement, because now the client was more informed. They felt like we held their hand through that initial process, and it was like they felt like, hey, this person's on my team. They want me to succeed. They are empowering me to do all the things, not really knowing that we show them how to do it. We spend this 20 minutes in front. It's really more beneficial for us, right? Because we
right.
showed you once, we got a recorded asset. We can just send it to you and say, hey, do this thing again because the bank connection broke. So really utilizing the clients you're currently serving to get better, is always going to be my go-to there, because we have this version of how well we're doing, we're crushing it, uh, but really it's the people we're serving that should be the ones telling us that we're
Right.
crushing
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important to keep clients ahead of everything. I mean, that's what's bringing you business in. So hearing from them firsthand is a really great toolkit and a reminder too. I mean, I think we all know that, but when you think about it and put it in your forefront and your mind every day, it's really crucial. But some key takeaways, which Niall just sort of recapped so that you can screenshot and take to your firms, is really starting with that high impact service. She mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but you don't really have to overhaul it all at once. You can improve that number one money making service to really maximize the amount of effort you're putting in and time to make that a really efficient process. And it gives you more time to do more too. That second one, record and document everything. So she personally will video record herself and talking through her process, taking that time to really document everything that you do. Also really helps you delegate work too. If you're feeling that you're doing a lot of the bulk of the work, but you have this admin staff to leverage too, you can really start to do it that way. And helps you really notice your processes too if you haven't really taken the time to write down them, like me. I never do that. And then lastly, and most importantly, get your client feedback and often as much as you can, really taking that client experience pulse after every service, beginning and end, really gives you those insights where to improve and how to put that process in place and improve it, and then how it's getting perceived by those clients too. So, in the past year, ShareFile has been working really hard in researching and working with our customers like Nayo to really understand your workflows and really trying to solve some of those key pain points you're still having with client engagements, interactions. But most recently, we've built these key features that are newer to ShareFile if you haven't checked them out, that are specifically built for accounting minds like yourselves. So the first being tailor-made workflows that are specifically developed for accountants in mind that really streamline that onboarding process from the very beginning of your engagement to collecting data and documents from those clients and then securing the entire client interaction process in a single workflow. We're calling that ShareFile Solutions if you haven't seen that before. But this, what you're seeing right now, is sort of showcasing what that looks like in practice in our product, from onboarding to generating the templates automatically for that client from the very beginning and be able to send it and interact with that client in one space. But we've also been innovating to ensure that our AI capabilities are seamlessly built into the document workflows that all of you are going through. That really create that impact in your day to day. So, if you haven't leveraged AI before, this is a great opportunity to start doing so. Just because I feel like AI has really matured in the way that you can really capitalize and how to use it. But in ShareFile specifically, we have capabilities that utilize AI to really help you guide secure sharing behavior. Maybe you can't always gate what your employees are doing, but you can guide them to what secure behavior looks like. So we'll have AI on our side of our product help guide your employees do that. Generating PVC lists from short prompts. Maybe you need to generate a list, but you don't want to take the time to build it. You can use prompts inside of ShareFile to do that now as well. And then also generating short summaries from lengthy documents like audit financial documents that you don't have an hour to reach and read all of that through and gather that information. You can now do with generative AI inside of ShareFile as well, which really comes into a lot of time savings and really all aimed to help you do more with less as well. To wrap us up, really, I did want to invite you all to visit our website to learn more about our newest plan inside of ShareFile called Industry Advantage. You can experience some of these key features that I showed today, and there's a whole lot more that I could talk your ear off about, but this is a great starting point. But Nayo, I did want to say it was a pleasure getting to speak with you again. I know I can speak up
Yeah.
for everyone else on the call that we're super appreciative of all your wisdom. You're always willing to share and some of the insights you've gathered through your own business. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it's always a pleasure getting to hang out with you, Stacy, and the ShareFile team. You're one of my favorite apps. Like I said, it's long standing in my app stack. So anytime you all call, I'm answering the call.
Oh, thanks,
And
Nayo.
if anybody can learn from me, just feel free. I am an open book. I've had some challenges. I'm going through growing pains myself. So I totally get it. I've been, by myself, and now we're 5 people deep. So that is a whole different gambit that I'm experiencing and growing through as well. What virtual assistants do I recommend? I had a very specific use case for a VA when I first hired my VA, and it was to manage my email inbox because, like I said, that's the bane of our existence. We get a lot of emails. And so there's a company that I utilize called Inbox Done. Their job is just solely to focus on the email and help get you to inbox zero, which was never really my goal. It was just somebody to take over some of the responding to emails that I didn't necessarily have to be involved with. So that's the one that I recommend. And then I have an admin that actually is in office with me, and I used a local recruiter to find her.
There was a
Um,
question, where can we go to learn more about the work you do, Nayo? And do you offer your own trainings?
So yes and no. The answer is follow me on LinkedIn, Nayo Carter-Gray. I'm constantly posting resources or things that I'm up to or teachings that I do. I also lead a virtual summit called the Taking Your Firm Virtual Summit. We took a pause last year because I think people are a little tired of I hate to say this on the webinar. I think people are tired of webinars. But yeah, I wanted to give my brain a minute to really kind of rethink how we can do the virtual summit and make it fun and engaging versus talking heads. So, taking your firm virtual summit. If you go there, you will be able to sign up for the wait list. And usually it happens in August, first week of August. Sign up and get on the wait list so you'll know when it's all set for you to log in and register. Oh, I see a good question here. How long did it take me to set up the templates for gathering client documents? Actually, I set a 10-minute timer and wrote out all the process for my tax prep service. Once I finished that, then I went back and looked at, okay, at this phase, I need what from this particular client. And so then I set another 10-minute timer and kind of wrote out a list of all the documents or the typical documents my clients provide me. So it's a very general list, but it is based off the clients we serve. So it'll have like W-2 and it'll be like from employer, wages from employer. So it'll give a brief description of what the document is. And then we have a place for other. So I tell people if you got something, you're not quite sure if it's important, send it to me anyway, because I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. 10 minutes to write it out, and then about 10 minutes to drop it in a pretty template so that it was on a First Step Accounting branded PDF form. And then I took that information and put it into a training document so that my admin would know when someone checks yes to this question on the organizer, they should have this form. Now that took a little bit more time, but if you want to know more, just find me on the LinkedIn and we can figure out how I can teach you how to do all those things. But those are like the advanced stuff you get to
Mhm.
once you figure out the basics. So don't overthink it. Literally, just take 10 minutes to say, here's what how the clients I'm serving, here's the forms they typically give me, because you can always add to the list or take away from the list. Oh, I like this one. A free app. Here's a resource in here. Free app called Genius Scan that creates a PDF file using a smartphone camera. But did you know with an iPhone, the iPhone has a scanner feature and can turn a picture into a PDF. So that's part of my little tutorial that I train my clients on. It's harder for me because I'm an iPhone person and I don't have an Android. So if you are an Android user and you know all the tricks on how to get good picture from Android other than, clean off the camera, please let me know. Uh, but I don't make a big I know a lot of people have a qualm with cell phone pictures. I don't, just because I know that it's how my clients will send us documents. They're getting younger. So we just drop them into Adobe PDF and then create a big old one PDF file.
But all right, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much, Nayo, and everyone for your time today and your great questions and comments. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully, you'll join us again for another one of these.
Thank you
Alrighty,
all.
bye, guys.